Hello, my friend, and welcome to Secure and Insecure, hosted by Johnny Seifert. This is the Celebrity Mental Health podcast where I say it's okay to not be okay. And if you have the same match as me, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Acast, wherever you're listening, leave a 5-star rating and a review. And let's keep spreading the word in 2024 that it's okay to not be okay. Now, let me tell you about my guest today. My guest today returns for Secure and Insecure for 2024. He's the king of mental health to make sure you have all the tools in your toolbox to be the best version of yourself. His podcast, The Stompcast, helps you sweat the small stuff and make you realize that no issue needs to overwhelm you. Away from mental health, he's a businessman with New Girl Property and Prescribe. So without further ado, he's the most busiest man in show business and in the mental health world. I'm delighted to welcome to Secure and Insecure. Thanks to Nationwide, it's Dr. Alex George. Hello, Dr. Alex.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. Well, we've been talking about, I don't know if you're going to talk about your ankle, but you've had a bit of a tough day, haven't you? So I think it's more about how are you, I think is the question.
Well, this is the problem. When you have doctors in your contact book, and at 7 a.m. this morning, I messaged about 100 celebrity doctors. I didn't want to wake you up, obviously, going, help, I'm dying. What do I do? And I'm like, I don't need to have an appointment. Oh, I've got people. And everyone's like, just take ibuprofen and take some frozen veg to bed. I was like, oh, right. Everyone's going to say, take a girl to bed. I get told, go and take a bag of frozen veg to bed. That's what I get. So,
Oh, well,
no, I'm not good.
hopefully it'll help you on the mend soon anyway.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Let's talk about you because you look amazing. I mean, I've been watching obviously your TikTok journey of your weight loss, but you look really good. And obviously, with Love Island All Stars coming back, everyone's obviously put the pictures up of what everyone used to look like. Obviously, you don't look like how you did then. So, talk to me about your weight loss journey now. How much have you lost? How are you feeling mentally, physically, etc., etc.?
It's been about, what has it been? About a year and a half that I kind of really just been focusing on my health a lot. A lot of it started, to be honest, with you mentioned the Stompcast. With that, I started recording the Stompcast to walk with guests, like talk about health issues, and hopefully, my hope was to get people outside, moving in nature, and to basically benefit people listening. What I didn't realize was how much benefit there would be for myself, and from a lot of the guests I've spoken to, from like Toddler T through to like Tom Carriage, the chef, like a lot of the conversations around alcohol and stuff come up, and weight, and I was kind of like, I need to kind of face this, because for a long time I was using alcohol to socialize, but also it started becoming like, am I numbing with alcohol, or what am I doing here? And I've never suffered from addiction, but I think I realized that even though drinking 2 or 3 nights a week, like a lot of the time for people in London or young people in cities or whatever, that might seem quite like a quote unquote normal thing to do. For me, I think it was just making my health really bad, and I gained a lot of weight, and it's been a tough few years. I've been through quite a lot. I think that's fair to say. I think it's taken its toll. So I stopped drinking on the 4th of December 2022. Didn't drink throughout 2023. I still don't drink. And I've just been focusing on just looking after my body, like fueling my body with good food, moving my body to exercise, running, to the gym. Like, I do a lot of weights now. I do running. I've been really enjoying it. I often felt like things like running weren't for me because it's quite a runner's thing, right? And that's cool, but sometimes you feel like maybe it's not for you. And I've actually found that running, is for everyone. Like, you should be able to go outside and just enjoy, stick some trainers on and move. And I've really enjoyed that. So yeah, I feel so much better for it. Like, it has changed my life. I think I have a very different, but you're right, I'm not the same. It's been about 6 years now, so I'm probably not as young looking as I looked like when I was on the island or whatever. But I would say I'm the fittest and healthiest mentally, emotionally, physically that I've ever been. I would say in my entire life, I'm probably in the best shape all round right now.
So how much do you weigh right now?
I mean, I lost 6 stone, well over 20 stone. So yeah, it's about 14, 15 stone. I don't know exactly. To be honest, I don't weigh myself, is the complete honest truth. I know because I knew what I weighed at my heaviest, and I know because I had to have my weight done for medications and stuff like that. Roughly what I weigh at my kind of lowest. So yeah, it's more about how I feel than anything else. Like, I'm not really that fussed about the aesthetic anymore. Like, obviously there's changes physically that happen. I'm fit and strong, and therefore I've got more muscle than I used to, and all that kind of stuff. But actually, it's not really about that. It's just about the mind. Is everything up here that matters the most? Like, I don't care whether I have a 6-pack or not, really.
Well, that's what I was getting to. So, if using the analogy of, okay, let's say you're 14 stone now and you're 20 stone when you started this journey, I'm interested in the 20 stone version of Dr. Alex, because obviously you'd come off Love Island, and I heard you on Fern Cotton's Happy Place podcast a couple of years ago, and it always stuck with me for some reason. And the amount of weight you lost to get to that stage to go on Love Island, then you come off Love Island and you become a really vocal point when it comes to mental health. When you were at 20 stone and you at your worst physically,
Mm,
emotionally, mentally, but also professionally, you were flying. And so, how
mm,
did that combat itself? Because, outside, everyone's going, oh my God, Dr. Alex is amazing. You're doing all these interviews and you're making differences in Parliament. And yet, inside, there was this thing eating you up. And so,
mm,
there's a massive balancing act because the
mm,
introverted you and the extroverted you have to play together. And yet, you've got this 20-stone version of Alex externally, but internally, you've got this one who's making everything happen for
mm.
themselves.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you look at so I do a master's in public mental health at the moment, and there's something called a job demand resource model, and the idea is that it's basically a model of health relating to the workplace. And essentially, what it means is like on one side, you've got job demands; these are pressures that are based on you, so stress related to the workplace, things that people want from you, colleagues, all these different kind of things. Then you've got resources, which anything that builds you up and makes you feel good. That job resource in the workplace could be your pay, it can be also good positive influences, the enjoyment you get from your work. And what's interesting is that I basically had a huge number of job demands, so things that what I was doing on the outside, but actually my resources were very low. So my physical resources, my mental resources were very low. And what I wasn't doing, I was being kind to the world externally and with all the work I was doing, but I wasn't being as kind to myself. So, I had to basically step away and go, actually, what's going on here? And you referenced the Happy Place podcast with Fern. And, what happened then is that I restricted myself with food and I was trying to get to a certain shape and size and all this kind of stuff. Whereas what's happened now is the complete opposite. I've added to my plate rich food, good food for me, nutritional food for me, fueled my body, and I've exercised not to burn weight. I'm like, that's the thing that's really important. My weight loss is a byproduct of, not a targeted outcome of, if that makes sense. Don't get me wrong, I was overweight. I was aware that I need to lose weight, but it was just a part of everything else that needed doing. I was aware that actually I want to go from a place of being burnt out and emotionally deplete to feeling emotionally enriched and feeling enriched in my life. And that is really fundamentally why I had to make those changes. Don't get me wrong, as I said, it's nice to be fit and strong. I like feeling healthy, fit, and strong. It's a nice thing. But the difference was when I was training for Love Island, I was doing it for a goal of aesthetics, not for a goal of health. And that's a completely different thing. As you know, it's a completely different thing. You're all subject to external pressures, things that happen in your life, being knocked off course, and it's bringing yourself back on course. And actually, fun enough, like I wrote the book, The Mind Manual, over the last 3 years. And actually, the thing that's got me back on track is that book. Like, I basically went back to everything I put down on paper. I lived by that book, every single word in 2023. Like, I literally lived by that book. And as cheesy as it sounds, like, that is the truth. And that got me back on track. But it's about having self-compassion, isn't it? Because, it's like anything, life happens. And sometimes you go off track. It's about coming back in the right direction. No live a life as a perfect, it's just completely unrealistic to expect to live a life perfectly all the time. I mean, life would be boring actually if you lived like this perfect life. You need to have some variability and stuff. And in reality, for me, what was important was getting myself back on track. But I wouldn't actually change anything because I wouldn't be the person I was today if it wasn't for everything that's happened. And all those things have taught me a lesson. Like, I had to go off piste to realize how important it was to be back on track. Often you only learn about how smooth the slopes are on the piece on piece when you go down the mountain. When you go off piece, you're like, hell, this is chaos. Like, there's trees everywhere. This is a rocky path. And you come back on, you're like, oh, okay, actually, this is a better place to be. So yeah, I think I learned a lot from that.
Thinking about the audience, the listeners, the viewers who are listening to this or watching this, what's your advice to them for what they should be doing on their mental health this year? Because I think every year we start
Mm,
again, January the 1st, then
mm,
everything obviously fades away. And then there's one
mm,
thing that we can keep doing all
mm,
through the year. So what's your advice this
mm.
year, my friend?
So the first thing I would say as well, I mean, let's recognise that we're the start of the year. I think the pressures, particularly on people's mental health and with financial health, is a huge thing. And I've been involved in this research that Nationwide Building Society has done, showing that 84% of people saying this is probably going to be the most difficult January yet for them financially. And the biggest thing I would say is that we are aware, in the mental health field and sphere, that January, Feb, March even could be really, really hard. You have the hangover time from Christmas. Finances are tough. The days are short. It's a really hard time for people. People are often very, very self-reflective this time of year, which we'll come on to, which can be helpful, but it also can be very negative. People can be very hard on themselves. So that all coupled together with times, with the economy and how it is, it's very, very hard. So my message to people is, please do talk to people. I mean, for example, with Nationwide, you can go into the branch, talk to people, but also in terms of the mental health side, if you need help with your mental health, please ask for help. It's the biggest thing I go on about. Fundamentally, working on mental health, building mental fitness is vital. But if you are struggling, if right now is a hard time for you, do not sit there in silence. So many men do it, for example, but women as well. People sit there in silence and don't ask for help. Looking forward in the year ahead, my tip and my advice would be to look and be introspective with compassion and build out growth and what that looks like for you in a way that's kind and is with kindness. So the way I advise, the tip I give to people is get a piece of paper, put in life audit on the top, and I want you to list 10 things that are important to you in your life. 10 things. It could be a specific thing like playing piano, it could be your career, it could be mental health, physical health. Put a list, and I want you to put a number 1 to 10. 1 being really low, it's not good at the moment, 10 being amazing. And I want you to list that and circle the 3 best things, the 3 highest scores. I did it for this year, I circled my physical fitness, I circled my career, and I circled my mental health. I think those are the 3 top ones. So I was like, I've really worked on those. And it's a bit of a pat on the back moment, being like, I'm proud that I've worked on this and got to a better place. And then I circle the 3 lowest scores. And you do that not to kind of beat yourself up, but just to go, right, I want to work on this. So the 3 things for me were family, friends, and travel. So last year I worked a lot on myself, but I didn't get a lot of time to go away. I didn't, by the way, I don't even necessarily abroad, but like go to the beach for the weekend, stuff like that. I didn't see my friends as much as I'd like to. And I think for me, a big part as well is being able to do things like hobbies and that. So those are my 3 areas of focus. And the reason it's useful to pick 3 areas is that you go into the year being open to opportunities that present themselves. So, for example, my brother was like, oh, let's go in a few weeks, let's go to the snowboarding dome. And I was like, cool, okay, let's do that. Because my brain's open, being like, I want to spend more time with friends, family, great, let's take this opportunity. It's also being aware that there are decisions and things you might say no to that actually might be taking away from the course of action. So for example, if someone's asked me to do a campaign and actually, I'm supposed to see my friends that day, I might be like, oh, hang on, whereas before, but oh, okay, I'll move the day with my friends. I might be like, actually, this is a priority for me. I know I'm going to work on this. Let's take this opportunity to see my friends. So what I'm saying, be reflective, but reflect on things you've done well, continue those things, and then build out 2 or 3 things that you want to focus on the year ahead. Don't create too restrictive of goals around them. Have broad views, broad strokes, so that at the end of the year, because you've no idea what the year brings, we don't know what the 2024 is going to bring. You're not going to be hard on yourself at the end of the year. At the end of the day, we're all growing, we're all doing our best. Be kind to yourself.
And also what's important is that you need to be in control of those things. So when you're making that list, is think about what can you control and what can you not control. So for example,
Yeah.
obviously your work nationwide today, something that's big for me is money. And as a freelancer, I stress about money all the time. And then I go, well, hold on, I'm going to need to remortgage my flat this year. That means more money. My student loan, I was on the £3,000 band, before it made that big change. And my student loan, I think, is about triple what it was when I went there. And so you've always got bills coming out, and suddenly it's going, well, look, you've got this money. And if you're fortunate to have a bit of money in your bank account, going, look, it doesn't matter what you've got in savings. It doesn't matter what you're earning each month. Just make sure you can afford the things that you want to pay for, because you can control that. When you're thinking about money and people are talking to you about money, and especially people in their 20s and 30s, because no one's ever written a rule book of what salary should be put on. Obviously, inflation's happened. People don't get pay rises. The cost of living has obviously gone up. COVID's happened. What's your advice when people are mentally going through that process of going, have I got enough money? Because for me, last year, I was on the phone to the Samaritans about 4 times last year.
I do think financial health is very important. The advice that I would give is based around that. And I think, if you look at this, it sounds to me as if it causes you stress. And stress is the emotional, mental, and physical response to stressor. And stressor is anything that causes that. So it can be finances, relationship issues, it can be work, it can be deadlines, whatever. And so it's working out, almost like you said, the sphere of influence or the control. What can I do to deal with this in the now? This actual issue, but then also what can I do to support myself outside of that? So, if you've got worries about financial worries, it's like, who can I speak to get the advice or direction I need to deal with? Who in my friends and family can I talk to perhaps get the support and advice that I need? So that's really important. But also being in the best shape mentally and looking after your mental fitness enough to be resilient to deal with it. Because like the analogy of, if you're an athlete, the fitter and healthier you are, you can't prevent an injury, but it's probably less likely. And if you do get an injury, you'll overcome it much more quickly versus if you don't do any exercise. And I guess that mentally, it's like you can't prevent some of these challenges, like what you've talked about. There's certain things that you can control, but you can't control the economy. What can you do about inflation? What are we supposed to do about inflation? Nothing we can do. So there's things you can control and things you can't control. What's in your control is looking after your health, getting enough exercise, getting sleep, talking, and having good connection with people, making sure that you're topping up that kind of cup mentally and stuff. And when you're talking about money and things, and this is not professional advice, but this is my personal thing that I think about is, having boundaries, whether that's actually about money or whether it's about time. A lot of it for me, I'm an introvert. I don't want to spend loads of time with friends. So sometimes I just say no because I need time alone. So I think it's being like almost proud of your boundaries in a way. It's like, look, I can or can't do this right now. Whether you want to share or not, you don't have to explain to people. I think a lot of the time we spend a lot of time apologizing and trying to explain our way out of things, the things that you can just say no to. Like, maybe like, oh, come out, let's go out on a night out in London tonight. You might be like, no, thank you. I'm not around tonight, whatever. I'll see you again soon. You don't have to explain, oh, there's financial worry, I'm really stressed, my mental health's bad. It would be great to reach out to them and talk about your mental health, obviously, but I don't think you have to always explain away and apologize for things. I think sometimes you have to do things for your own health and own it and kind of be proud that you're doing the right thing for you.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree. Where can people get more information though on your research today?
Yeah, so if you go to the Nationwide Building Society website, you can look at challenging times and all the survey, the research, and also there's links for help there. So if people want to speak, go into the Building Society in person. They're keeping the stores open, building branches to meet people in person. But also there's a hotline there specifically for cost of living crisis. So you can speak to people and they can point you in the right direction for support or related charities if needed. So check that out.
Brilliant. Well, my thanks to Dr. Alex George there. My thanks to Nationwide and obviously Markettiers as well for setting up this interview. And if you want to hear more from Dr. Alex George, he's been on Secure in the past telling his mental health journey. So do go and check out that episode because it was brilliant. And obviously, there's loads of Love Islanders, over 100 Love Islanders have been on this podcast before telling their mental health journeys. If you enjoy Secure, if you're watching on YouTube, give that subscribe button a click, leave a 5-star rating and a review. Whether you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you're listening, click that subscribe button, leave the 5-star rating and a review. And let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. On TikTok at Johnny Seifert 92, on Instagram at Secure Podcast at Johnny Seifert, where you can find me. I put teasers of all previous episodes out so we can keep spreading the word in 2024. It's okay to not be okay. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.